What I'd like to do is introduce some information about the acupuncture needles themselves before we do a little bit of acupuncture treatment. And that is that acupuncture needles are mandatory that they be disposable. So what that means is they come from China, they're imported to distributors in America. We as practitioners purchase it from them. They are regulated by the FDA. Once we use the acupuncture needles, we have to put them in a biohazardous container, and then once a month the hazardous company comes and picks those up and takes them and disposes of them. So there's two primary things. One is the length of the needle and the other one is the gauge, which means how thick the needle is. Generally the needles aren't much thicker than a hair follicle that you would find on your head. So again, usually we decide how many points need to be done on the body in the two-sided treatment, and the client will be relaxed and will choose the needles both in length and thickness that are appropriate for the condition. And we sterilize the points and go ahead and determine where we're going to do the acupuncture.
Okay.
Something that may seem a little foreign to people to understand is that there's a connection with internal organs and with the musculoskeletal system, meaning a shoulder problem can actually be in part created by a problem in the large intestine. The reason why is because the large intestine meridian, which is like a river or a stream that carries fluid and carries energy, runs through the arm and shoulder. So I will actually use large intestine points on the large intestine meridian, acupuncture points, as a way to open up this meridian and channel and thus give her relief with her chronic shoulder problem. I'm going to choose 3 points and go ahead and do some acupuncture on there.
Okay.
Okay, so the first point I will do will be away from the shoulder, but it's a point in the hand that we use very, very often. And this point is good for any condition that's from the chest up in the body. So there's a guide tube, and the needle is slightly longer than the guide tube. I set the guide tube where the point is once I found the location, and then I tap the needle and take the guide tube away. Now the needle has pierced the skin, and it's in the point. I will do a slightly more insertion of the point to make contact with the acupuncture point. 2 things. One is the direction that we put the needle, and the way that we spin the needle, manipulate it, it's called, determines how we instigate the flow of qi.
So I'm sure many people are thinking, is that painful?
No,
Not at all.
not at all.
Great.
And I will do 2 more points. Another point that's further up the channel, but again, I'm working away from the shoulder problem, and then I'm also working towards that by instigating a movement across this meridian. And that's the second point on this channel that connects with this point. The third point we're going to use is closer to the shoulder, and it's still on the large intestine meridian. I locate the point with palpation, and finding the anatomy of the tissues there, I realize the point is right here. I go ahead and apply the guide tube, rest the needle inside the guide tube on the point, get my location, and do my tap, remove the guide tube, take the needle, slight more insertion into the point, and that's it.
And then here's the other points and that you've placed earlier.
And
Go ahead.
these 3 points start to instigate a reaction from her body to move the qi and stimulate blood supply along this region or quadrant of her body, and to start to have her brain react to bringing down inflammation in the shoulder area. And at the same time, by doing that, this allows for her to increase the range of motion of shoulder movement. Okay, so the client now has been relaxing with the acupuncture needles in her points, acupuncture points, for a period of a few minutes, 5 to 10 minutes or so. She is comfortable. There's no pain or discomfort. Usually people become very relaxed. Sometimes they do fall asleep. And as we look at the needles, we'll see that there's a slight little bit of discoloration around the needle here, indicating that there's a reaction both with the energy in her nervous system to the acupuncture point. So after approximately 10 to 20 minutes, we go ahead and remove the needles. And when we remove the needles, there's also a sequence to that. Usually we remove the needle that we put in first, we remove that one first, and backtrack along the path, removing the needles. So the first point is here. So I take the needle, I remove it, and go ahead and seal the point with some pressure, and a piece of cotton, and then
I'm noticing there's no bleeding. Normally there's not bleeding.
very, very seldom. There is never any bleeding. Once in a great while, we will find that a little capillary sometimes does get hit by a needle and there may be a drop of blood. It's a very small bruise, lasts for a day or two, but that's very, very rare.
Okay, so it's minimal.
Second needle removed. Go ahead and seal the point. Finished. Third needle extracted, sealed, finished.